Okay, one person. Hey, Karen. You're always so punctual. It's 10 o'clock. Let me just check my other computer over here. Okay, good. The other Karen's on. You guys can hear me, right? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. And Suzanne, all right. Happy Monday, you guys. Hey, Karen, not Karen UK, Karen US, you did send me a question, I noticed, but I do have all my questions ready for you guys, so I'm super excited about today. And hey, Leslie, I'm so glad you're on. Good to see you. I loved your art that you're doing. Your flower is gorgeous, and I was unplugged kind of for the last few days, to be real honest with you guys, but I wanted to get back to you on your art because it was gorgeous. And I picked you guys bouquet. Oh, it's so heavy. Hold on. Okay. All right, so here's what we have today. I picked this morning. Look how sweet these are. My roses are pretty much at this time of year. You've got your second batch of roses, and then they start to kind of take its course. But these are the David Austin Charles Darwin that smell amazing. There you go. Aren't they pretty? Then this is a bougainvillea that grows pretty much, we're very, very lucky to live here all year round. So they look great in bouquets. So I just take a piece and stick it in the middle. And then this is the Chinese lantern, which I forgot the real name. That's its like common name. Whoopsie. Couple dahlias. The dahlias are doing amazing. Aren't they so pretty? And then some scabiosa, and then I stuck in a jasmine in here. And that smells so good. So anyway, that is my bouquet for you guys. So happy Monday. And I'm not too sure if Debbie is on, but Leslie lives near me, and we had some crazy, crazy weather. I'm sure you guys saw my photo of the rainbow, but there was lightning, and we never ever get lightning in the summertime. And I don't know if you can tell right here. Let's see. I don't know if you can tell, but unfortunately, because of all the lightning, there's been some fires. And so there's a big fire south of us, and so the whole sky right now is this like crazy gold color. So hopefully everyone is safe and sound, but that is the bummer about the fall where I live. It gets very, very hot, and unfortunately we get some fires. So I hope that one gets put out really soon. So thank you guys for coming. I'm super excited. I have all our questions. I printed them out. I'm so official. And I'm going to just start at the top with Karen from England. My friend Karen, who's an amazing new artist, and I'm so proud of you for all that you are doing. And Karen had a question on canvases. And oh, by the way, you guys can ask me some questions if you have any comments, just send them in the comments, and then I'll be doing a Q&A probably at least once a month. So as you guys are working on your art, or if you have any creativity questions or inspirational questions, just send them to me and we'll cover them once a month, or at any time you can always message me too. So, okay, canvases. I have a couple here to show you. And so the thing about canvases is that back in the olden days, the canvases were primed with gesso, primarily, hold on, there's a piece of hair stuck in my face, primarily for oil painting. And the oil painting, the oils would start to, affect the fabric. And so it was for the longevity of the painting. And that's sort of why canvases got gessoed in the first place. Another reason that people like gessoed canvases is because it's a nice smooth start to your painting, and it's a nice smooth finish. So when you go to a store, most of your canvases are already going to be primed and ready to go, and you shouldn't have to do anything. But I'm going to show you guys some examples of some canvases I have here. If you are experimenting and you're starting out and you don't want to spend a ton of money, there's a lot of canvases that you can buy under like super value packs. And so in the US, we have a Dick Blick and Amazon, of course, but in Karen, where you are, I'm sure there's something like this in England where there's maybe a wholesale, not a wholesale place, but like a bulk place or something, or an art supply store online. Not 100%, but I get these for my kids. Or if I'm doing art classes for kids, I get these. They are, you know, stapled on the back. They're pretty thin as far as the thickness goes. And I can get maybe 6 or 7 canvases for maybe 10 bucks or something like that. But it is great to experiment with. They're already primed. You don't have to spend money gessoing them, but it's just a good way to kind of get started, especially if you want to experiment with paints. Just keep in mind that they are a little bit cheaper of a canvas, but you should still have no problem painting on them and working with them. Another thing I do is if I have a really nice canvas and I've invested some money into it, but I don't love my art, then I just paint over it, and then there you go. You're already ready to go. You just leave your painting on it and you paint on top of it, leaving some of the painting underneath to show through. That's what I like to do, or you could gesso the whole thing. But really with the gesso, it's really mainly for oils, and you don't really have to gesso your canvases when you get them. Another canvas that I like by Dick is, by Dick, oh my gosh, but my mom was on the, Mom, are you there? So, by Blick, Dick Blick. I like the thick gallery wrap ones because, because I really like having this thick body, this thick frame, because I like to paint on my sides. You can get them like a 1/2 inch, a 1.5 inch, a 2 inch. They become a little heavier and probably a little bit more expensive. So this one is a Premier Gallery. So at this company, at Blick or Amazon or anything, you can get student grade, you can get gallery grade, there's probably professional. So obviously the more money you spend, maybe the better canvas you get. So we're probably not needing the super fancy canvases, but there are 2 different types of canvas fabrics, at least more common, and one of them is cotton and the other is linen. And so if you see a canvas online and you're not too sure which one to get, cotton is more affordable and linen is just a little bit more expensive, or it could be really expensive depending. And if Terry's on the line, I know that in Belgium they make a really nice Belgium linen, and so it's a tighter weave and it's a better thread count, so it's smoother. But I don't have those, and I just use my regular cotton. And then if I'm doing a commission or I'm working on a piece that I know I'm going to sell, I usually go with a brand called Frederick. Frederick I really like. I just feel like it's really nice and smooth. So it's one of my favorites that I like to use. And again, this is a, let's see, is this 1.5, I think this is, for my sides. And they're all stapled and ready to go. And then I just put my hanging, I go to the store and I buy some hanging hardware. Whoopsie, and then I just hang them up that way. So I think I answered, let's see, your question on the canvases. And to Karen, if you are just experimenting with paints as well, you can also use paper. And I'm gonna touch on paper because we had a question about paper later. But anyway, those are my canvases. I get all different sizes, and I'm super excited because I put in an order for Blick last week, and I'm bummed because I didn't get the Posco pencils in time when I saw Terry's post. But I'm doing this new project, and I am taking an unrolled piece of canvas I bought. I've never done this before, and I'm having it unprimed, and it's going to be a piece of fabric, and I'm going to hang it on my studio wall, and I'm going to paint on it. And oh, there's Terry. So no internet, darn it. I'm going to paint on this piece of unstretched canvas, and hang it as a fabric. So I'm super excited. So you guys are gonna probably see lots of sneak peeks on that, but that's coming on Wednesday, and I'll show you guys all about that. So unfortunately though, I did not get those pens in time. And there's Carol. Okay, Carol's question is coming up soon. Okay, so this next question is a big question from Christina and Debbie. And so Christina is over in the UK, in the EU as well. She's over in Europe, and she may not be on. So this is for you, because I know she'll watch the replay. So Christina asked, I would love to get your insight on composition and color values. I usually do the grayscale trick, but I would love to know yours struggling with composition. So I broke this down into two areas. One is all about composition, and the other is all about values. So I really thought about my composition because, to be honest, I get a lot of mine from my gut. I know that's not the right answer, but I have some ideas. But I usually go with what I think looks right. So my main tips for composition are a couple things. I like a balance, and in composition, sometimes it's about, when I'm talking about composition too, I'm not talking about what type of subject matter. I'm really talking about how it feels as a whole. So what I like to do, and I've done this in my prior life in advertising for photography or things that I was working on, is turn your canvas upside down. And okay, Karen, I'll get to that in 1 second. Turn your canvas upside down, and like you can squint, and if you step back, turn upside down and squint, you will start to see some areas that may look a little off. And it's hard to explain it unless you guys, you almost have to just do that with one of your paintings, is if there's something in your painting that is sticking out, let's say on the top corner, it's like a big area, and that's where your eye's always going, then you want to balance over onto another area. And I've got some examples to show you guys. So one trick is to turn your painting or your art or whatever it is, or even a photograph, upside down, and give it a little squint and kind of see if there's any areas that are jarring or standing out, or they're too much. And that way you'll know that you can go concentrate on another area. And the whole idea is to balance things out. So another thing is to try and make sure that you have a focal point, but also at the same time, it's not too jarring. And so let's go. Well, I'll show you this. I'll show you this one right now, what I was talking about. Oh, you guys, it's getting so hot in here. Whew, that's why I'm wearing a dress today that's sleeveless. Sorry, I hope people don't think I'm like naked down here, but it is hot. Okay, so here is my pink Ellie. This is a print. If you guys saw this story, I sold this. And my first painting I ever sold, bawled my eyes out. Okay, so what I mean by focal point is the pink Ellie is the main part of this painting. And this is in a realistic painting. It's not a abstract I'm talking about right now. So this is my main focus, is this pink Ellie. But if I just had her and nothing else, and this was like a plain background, what would happen is everything is going to be, I would be looking over here, and I wouldn't be looking all around. And in a composition that's done well, you want to look all around your painting. So even though this is a big piece, this is a big, object, I balanced it out with flowers. So these flowers here are playing the role of balancing it out. And so while my elephant is pink, I wanted to make sure I picked up some brighter colors up here to balance this. Okay, so if I turn this upside down, all right, you would still, your eyes are still gonna go here, but they're also gonna go here, here, and here. And then in amongst all of this, I have some other colors to just sort of balance it out. Hopefully that makes sense. And I've got a couple others to show you, but that's the main thing I want to point out, is that even though you might have a centerpiece of something, or when I mean centerpiece, it's not really center, but even though you might have a big object, you have other things to balance. So you have big and small. Let's see, I got some other stuff. Ooh, I might have to open the door. The door, you guys, is so hot. Okay, so you want to have big and small things. So in a painting, when you're working on a composition, you don't want to have everything big and you don't want to have everything small. I like to have little bits of small and big things too, so I definitely balance it off. When I was working on the Rise piece, which, believe it or not, I don't think I'm still finished. I had a lot of this done, and then I was struggling with my composition, and so I kept thinking, what is it, what is it? And so I ended up putting these bigger circles right in here to balance. So my eye isn't going, where does my eye rest? Where's it going? But now that I have some bigger pieces and they're balanced, so I've got them here, 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 and here, my eye seems to settle a little bit more than if they were all little tiny, tiny lines and dots. So that's another one. And I'm going to use this one for the color values too. So this is an example of another one where I'm working on composition. And another thing in a composition, a little idea, wait, I should just hold it like that. Another thing in the composition is that I like to work, not all the time because this could be different, but I like to work in odds. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, there's a half of one here, but I like to work in, I don't usually do things in like 2s or 4s or 6s. I like to try and have some odd numbers in some of my elements. Here you got like little 5. And I don't think about it too much. I don't think like, oh, I want to make sure I have 5 dots. It's just that it usually happens to be that way. They just are more pleasing. So that's another little trick on composition, is to think of when you group things together, think of grouping them in odd numbers. And then I have another thing I like to do is repeat my patterns. So especially if you're working with, if you've taken my classes or you're working with some of the art that I like to do, is maybe I'll do a whole bunch of dots and lines on the bottom, then I'll go ahead and do them on the top or over on the side. Also, I like to, in my composition, if I'm working with a color on the bottom of my painting, I want to always make sure that I put that color on the top. And the reason for that is it's a balance. So you're always trying to balance your canvas. And there's lots of different ways to do it, but when you're working on composition, that's why when you are struggling with something, turn it upside down, give it a squint, and just see, is there enough blue on both sides? Is there enough patterns on both sides? Is my eye going just to one spot? And let's see, what else did I write down? Color combinations is another way to do a balance. And I'm going to talk about color values in a second. If I was doing a painting and I had all orange and red on the bottom and I had all black on top, then it would feel a little off balance because my eye is probably going to go to the darker color, or it would go to a brighter color if it was opposite. And so you want to make sure you've got your colors balanced throughout the whole thing, and that will help with your composition as well. Flowers is an example. When we're doing our flowers, I want to make sure if I have one big flower in the center, then I've got some odd flowers going on, maybe some big, maybe some medium, maybe some small. If I want to do a big flower on the left, maybe I do two small flowers on the right. So hopefully that helps you guys. Composition is also, actually Suzanne might like this, because this is a blah, blah, blah. This is a commission I did. And so composition is something that I'll sometimes work on in advance of a painting, I will put down and sketch. So these were huge. These were 4 feet across, but I really wanted to make sure I had a composition figured out. And so sketch it out if you're working on something, especially if it's for somebody else, or if you're working on a realistic image of something and you really wanted to kind of know, like, where's my body going, where are my flowers going. Then once I've done a small one, I'll do a bigger one. And a lot of times I'll do my sketches in watercolor and pencil before I go to paint. Now, I don't usually do a sketch if it's for me or if it's an abstract. This is just if I was trying to, like, draw a house or do something like that. And so, yeah, Suzanne, that's the one. Suzanne has a question on this painting, and I have to find the photos, and I'll post them for you guys. It's a painting that is long gone, but it's just to show you that your composition could start with a pencil sketch, and then you could just keep working through it, and finding out some answers there. So hopefully, Christina, a little bit of a babble, I answered your question. I'm gonna go open this back door because it is hot. We're having a heat wave. Woo! So we don't have heat waves here. So we're all melting, and sorry, you can hear my fountain, but there's no air conditioning in Santa Cruz. Okay, so let's see, color value. So Karen had asked me, what is color value grayscale? So a grayscale color value is a traditional way to do your colors. And what you do is you take your pigment. So let's say you're taking a magenta and you add a little bit of white, or you add a little bit of black, and you keep adding more black or more white. So you've got the lightest pink to the darkest pink. That's how you sort of do a color from light to dark. It's either adding white, you have your regular paint, or you're adding black. So what I like to do, my tip on color value, and I have some stuff to show you, is I never use black in my paintings. If I use anything at all, I use Payne's Gray, which is a super dark navy gray. And but when I'm mixing my colors for my value, I usually add either a darker color of the color. So for instance, if I'm using pink and I want to make a darker pink, I will then add either a darker pink to it rather than adding black to it. And if I want to add a lighter pink, then I'll add white to it, or I'll add a cream color to it. And so one thing with the values is that, and then the other thing I add too to my colors for my value are the inks. We're going to talk about inks in a minute too, but I use the inks as a way to mix some lighter and darker. What I like to do with my colors is I like to see if I've got some examples here. Okay, I like to go, I like to build up my colors by layering, and I'll either go lighter or darker depending on really what I'm working on. I'm going to try and see if you guys can see this. Okay, we can see this. So this is this dark green right in here, and then I've added that same green, I've added white to it and probably maybe a touch of yellow, and then I'll layer that on top. So all of this is a tone on tone. And so here's some instances where I've done the blue, where I have a dark blue and then I have a lighter blue on top. By adding a little white to this color, I'm adding some value to it. Here is the Payne's Gray I was talking about. See, it's almost black. You would probably think it's black, but I usually never mix this black, or I usually never mix Payne's Gray into my colors. So this is where you get some value going. So here's some pink. So I have the lighter pink, and then I have the darker pinks. So a value is the lighter, it's a color that goes from a light to a dark, and it helps too with your composition and your values. Your composition and your color balance is going with some lights and darks. So what you can do is you can mix up some colors that you really like, okay? So let's say you really like blue, because you know I like blue. So let's say you're mixing blue, and what you want to do is take your blue and then take some other blues that you might have and some white. Like, you guys know how I love that white titanium. You could do some white. And then you could just take a piece of paper and you could mix up a palette. Just mix it up, put it on this piece of paper, even right, like you could be super, you could be, I don't know what word I'm trying to think of. You could write underneath each little color what it is that you mix. And then all of a sudden, the more practice that you have and the more that you guys keep painting, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's my go-to color. I love that blue. I add a little bit of white and I add a little bit of blue ink. I'm just giving you an example. But that way you start to build up what your color palette is. And I was just doing a video for another class that I am working on about finding your unique style. A lot of times it's also with your colors that you use. So for me, when I use pinks and blues, I use about maybe 10 or 12 different ways to make that blue or that pink. And I love layering on to make a value. I love taking a dark pink and then putting a lighter pink on top and then even a lighter pink on top. So hopefully that helps you guys with the value. Let me see if I wrote anything else about that. Let me just see if you guys have, oh, there's a lot of comments, but sorry, I'll probably have to get back. I might have to get back to some of those comments, but anyway, all right, so we'll see what we have at the end of this Facebook Live, because those are my first two questions. So Christina, if for some reason I didn't answer it completely, just let me know. Put a comment in the message in the Facebook and we'll go down further. Okay, so Patty writes, what can I use instead of inks? So I love inks. It's probably one of my favorite mediums to work with. And as we were just talking about, I love mixing with inks. I love taking my regular paints and using inks as my, binder of making them either more fluid or brighter or something like that. So I was thinking about your question because you don't have to use inks. Nobody has to use inks at all. That's just my preference. But if you wanted to, the reason I also love inks besides using them to mix is I love how vibrant they are. So you can go in and grab some paint at a paint store that's already got a lot of pigment in it and that's pretty bright. The thing about inks and paints is they're just different. It's like taking maybe color pencils and pastels. They're different, but yet they're similar. So I would just recommend that if you like the inks, if you're trying to get the vibrancy, you can definitely get that with some regular paint. And if you want to do some mixing, you can still do that with regular paint. But I just like the inks. But seriously though, if you guys are just starting out and you're experimenting, then absolutely you don't have to use the inks at all. Okay, Cheryl, I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to make a note and answer your question at the end. Okay, hold on. Okay. So hopefully, Patty, that helps you. I don't know for sure if you're thinking about something else. And if anybody else has a suggestion over inks, I just like them. I also work with sometimes watercolor and acrylics together. And some watercolors out there are pretty bright and you get the ink consistency. So that's another thought. All right, so and then Patty also asked, what is the best white marker you use? And so Patty, I wasn't too sure if you were talking about paint pens or markers, so I have both here. My favorite paint pen for white is the Sharpie or the Posca. Sharpie, you can get these anywhere and you can get them probably cheapest. And then the Posca I also love. The Sharpie, and just make sure they're water-based and not oil-based, okay? That's important because Sharpie does have a line of oil-based markers. I use these on everything. But if you are doing some sketching, look at this page. I have this page for you. This is for something else. But if you are doing some sketching in your notebook and you want to do white on your paper or white on your drawings, then I like these little, I gotta put my glasses on, I can't read this at all. I like these little things. My mom recommended, it's Uniball Signo. Okay, wait, can you see that? Did it go backwards all of a sudden? Huh. Uniball, sorry, I'll put that on the thing. Uniball Signo, and I've used most of them up. You could also use gel pens that are white. I've used gel pens quite a bit. I just happen to like these better. I think they're easier to write with. So those are my white pens. And if anybody else has a special white pen that they love, definitely write it in there because we're always looking for a good white pen. Okay, Roxanne asks, why do I use 140-pound hot press watercolor paper? Okay, because I love it. It is so, here's a little piece I'm working on these little pieces. It's so smooth. I'm sorry I can't like get it through here, but it's so smooth. It's beautiful, and I love how it's not too hard. If you wanted something thicker, then go with a 300-pound. It's more expensive, but you can go with a 300-pound. I like 140 because it's easier for me to take my tear bar. I can't really do a demo on that right now, but I take a ruler that's a tear bar and I rip it. I don't cut them, I rip it. So it's easy to rip. And I prefer hot press over cold press because I like the smooth. Now, my sister, Sarah, she likes the cold press because she does a lot more watercolor and I'm doing more acrylic. But if you watercolor and you want to get all those yummy textures, then you want to get cold press because it's got a lot more texture to the paper. What she likes to do is she puts water down first and then she puts her watercolor on top. So if you want to experiment and grab a sheet of cold press and grab a sheet of hot press, you can also do the same exercise on both pieces of paper and you'll see the difference of what I'm talking about. If you put water down on your hot press first, what will happen is the water will just kind of sit on top and then soak in. So I would say I definitely recommend experimenting. I just have always preferred the hot press. And the paper I get is I'll order a sheet of at Dick Blick's, sorry, at Blick's 22 by 30, and it comes in sheets. But then you can also go to anywhere, like here's an example of, you can get student grade, and this is called Student Watercolor, and it was probably like 19 bucks for 50 sheets. Pretty awesome, right? And how many sheets? Yeah, 50. And it's fine. I don't really do them for my pieces that I'll probably sell, but it's gorgeous, it's smooth. I love Fabriano. Arches also makes great hot press and cold press. Those are the two brand names that I like the most. This is an Arches, so it's like a smaller little block pad. And I think it's your preference. I also really, really, really like the hot press because I love using the black microns and Pitt markers on them. And then you guys have seen these, I'm sure. You guys have probably seen these a ton now, my little books that I make, and they're done with Fabriano paper, or you could use Arches, but you know, they're great to make artist journals from, and the writing is so smooth on there. So that is why I love the hot press. Hopefully that answered that one. Okay, Carol, because I think Carol's on. So the first couple of layers, can I use regular acrylic or do we need to stay with the inks? Okay, so it's kind of back to that ink question. You certainly don't have to do you could do either or both, but the reason that I put inks down first is because I want to cover my canvas. It's a good way to get your canvas covered with a nice, bright, vibrant color with using the inks. And then, as you'll see, almost every layer that I work on, I'll incorporate ink somehow into it, either by mixing it or by having my paint dry and then even adding more inks again on top, the way I've done in the early layers. It's something that you might want to do. I'm trying to see if I have these. Let's see. Like this is just a tiny example of using inks after I've got paint down, is that I'll go in with the bottle top and I'll draw. So there's so many different ways to use inks. I think I did a video once on all the different ways that I'm using inks. So I would just recommend, like, and plus maybe you just get one bottle. Maybe you just get one of your favorite colors of ink and you just experiment and have fun. But the acrylic inks and acrylic paint, you can build up your canvas all the way to the end and use them. So hopefully that helps. I love inks. They're like my favorite. Okay, last question is from Suzanne. Suzanne, I ran out of berries tea. I have to order some. Suzanne's in Ireland and she and I both love berries. So, okay, I would love to see you varnish. I need to do mine. I've never done it. It makes me nervous. I have the Liquitex Brush On Matte. So I wanted to talk to you guys about the varnishing. So some of my friends who are really big artists never varnish anything. So varnish again it's really I think mostly for oils, and but I do varnish all of my work because it will help, you know, keep it the color lasting, and also if you ever have it in some room that maybe it's a little too bright, it will just help keep the paint colors. But I do know some people who never varnish, so don't feel like you have to varnish. So a couple things is when I'm working on my paintings, so any of my big canvases that are paint on them, I use a UV archival spray. I like to use matte, but this one says satin because it was the only one in the store. But satin is fine too. I just don't like gloss. I don't want it to have like a shine to it. And so the way you use this is you have to use okay, this is a bad example. You cannot do that with a regular can. Nope, you can't. But I jimmied it so I wouldn't have to do that anymore. These are flammable, they're not for kids, and you have to use a screwdriver to get the cap off, all right? Except if you did what I just did, which is a no-no. But anyway, what I do is you wear a mask, and we all have masks, so that's no problem, but you wear a mask, and I'm not gonna do it, but you take your painting, and you know I'm about 2 feet away, and I spray like this, okay? Okay, I'm a little bit closer now, but you're like a foot away. Let's say you're a foot away. I spray one coat, I get my sides, and I let it sit until it's dry. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I give it 20 minutes, 30 minutes to an hour, and then I go back, I do it again, and I do 3 coats. Especially if I'm selling it, or if it's a commission, or if, whatever, I do 3 coats. A couple tips would be, you don't want to press so much that it drips. That has happened to me before. You just want to, and you shake it, and you just want to spray. It's super strong, it's super toxic, it's a no-no, but it helps, and you just want to make sure you wear a mask. That is the archival spray. And again, I know people who don't spray anything, but that's my spray. Then, if you wanted to use your matte medium, I never put this on, I never use these on my acrylic paintings that are just really acrylic paintings. I go with the varnish, the spray. But if I'm working on a mixed media piece, and let's say I did a mixed media piece and I adhered it to a cradle board, then I'll want to use the matte medium. If I worked in my art journal, and I have a couple here to show you, and I really wanted to keep it pristine and I didn't want all the edges to come off, then I would work with matte medium. And I like, again, matte over satin or glossy. I really prefer it to not be shiny, but you still will get a sheen with these no matter what, okay? So there's Liquitex, there's Golden. Mod Podge is the same exact thing. So if you're on a budget and you don't want to spend a ton of money on, I'm sure there's some fancy reason why this is more, but this does just a good enough trick. The matte medium is a great art supply to have at home because it also is a glue, and you can use it to glue down your collage pieces, but you can also use it to protect them. So I have a few little things to show you. So this one does, whoopsie, this does not have anything. So if I could come here and I could lift these pieces up, right? And I don't want to do that. So this is an example of, right, that's not, oh yeah, down here. So this is one where I have done some matte medium, and I put these pieces down with some of that glue medium that I used. You could also coat the whole thing, and Suzanne wanted to know how you do it. I use a big brush. Your brush might get ruined. You don't want to use your fancy brush, but you want to use a brush and then wash it out because it is glue. And I pretend this is my piece, and I just, you know, gently coat in the same direction. I don't go like this because you may see some of the marks. I just coat in that same direction. And I'm going to be working on a few fun pieces in the next month or so that I will be using some matte medium to adhere everything, and I'll show you guys how I do that. So here's another one where I use matte medium on the whole thing, and you can't really see it, but everything is kind of glued down because this was a project I did years and years ago, but I wanted to have it sort of set. So it's sort of up to you, it's your preference. Suzanne, did I answer that? I hope so. And I think that's all my questions. Let's see. Oh, love her. Oh, isn't she so cute? That was my very first online class I did. It was with Tisha Moore and Jane Davenport. And I don't even know if they have it. And it was called the Mermaid Circus. And I took it 9 years ago. It might have been like the first online class. And it led me down a rabbit hole of classes. Now I'm a huge fan of classes. I take a bunch. I think I have like 25 or something in my laptop to still take, but I take a bunch of classes, and I also love to do an in-person class if I can. So let's see what, oh, okay. So Suzanne, yeah, you don't need to put that matte medium on any canvas. I never do. Just use your spray and you're good to go. And like I said, some people don't even use the spray. So a couple things I want to tell you is that if you guys have any questions and you're kind of curious, like how do I do that, or well, fine, you can always ask me, but also you can always Google. I have been working on this project and I am stumped on a few things. So I'll Google, but what I've noticed lately for my art questions is I will think of what I want to ask. So let's say I want to say, how do I use matte medium on my collage pieces? I take the whole sentence that I just had in my head and I put it in the YouTube search bar. YouTube for me has become my go-to over Google, and the reason is that I like a visual explanation, and usually they're short. They're like a 2-minute or 3-minute video. I've been doing a lot of technical things with my business, like website and stuff, and I'm struggling. And so I'll put everything in a YouTube question. And you guys, it is like genius. I wish I had it 20 years ago when I was in college. Oh, wait, that was like 30 years ago. Okay. All right, I'm finishing up because it's been 45 minutes. So I am working on classes. I'm super excited. I have my elephant class that I am so close to finishing, and I hope to launch that in a couple weeks, and then for early bird registration, so it'll be cheaper for a month, and of course you guys will be the first to know. I also am working on another class that's a secret that I can't tell you, but I will tell you soon, so stay tuned for that. And I think what I'm gonna do is, because Sandra had a great suggestion for me on my lives, is next week I'm going to show you guys how I do a mood board. So a mood board is similar to an inspiration board. It's how I sometimes get my ideas and my color thoughts and how I want to create like a new painting, and sometimes it's just fun to create them. So I have that going on soon, and if you guys have any other suggestions, just let me know. I'm definitely going to do a studio tour soon, probably the week after that. And I hope you guys have an awesome week. And what else I want to tell you? Keep on creating, keep on showing in our beautiful community. Terry has a painting in there that I love. Leslie put one in there. Oh my gosh, there's so many people that are adding art to this, and I'm so excited. So if I didn't mention your name, you have some, and Beth is in there, such great artwork. And have a great week. I love you guys, and I will see you soon, okay? Mwah. Bye.